We're going to take a look at exit slip 3.6. Our I can statement here is to be able to divide using the traditional algorithm when there's some decimals involved. All right, so we're going to estimate, like always, to double check that our answer when we get it makes sense, and just do some number sense things here. So for the first one here, we've got 5 and 52 hundredths divided by 1 and 6 tenths. So if I'm going to estimate this thing, I can round this up to 6 if I'd like. Okay, we just got to get it close, 5.5. You could round to 5.5, a little bit harder to make an estimate there, but it's really close to 5.5. I could say 6 divided by and 1 and 6 tenths. And I can round that up to 2 if I'd like. Okay, and 6 divided by 2, I know my answer should get to be close to 3. Again, I'm thinking how many groups, if I say it backwards, how many groups of 1.6 can I get out of 5.52? Okay, so I should be able to get about 3 groups, would be somewhere close, and that would make sense. So if I'm going to do my traditional work here now, the dividend I write first. So 5.52, and I'm going to divide that into groups of 1.6. Remember, the divisor goes on the outside here. I'm trying to make this many groups. All right, so how do I handle this decimal? Okay, it's really tough to make groups of 1.6. All right, we want to make this a whole number is the traditional way to do it, make it a little bit simpler. All right, so I want to, before I do that, look at this thing as a fraction. Remember, I can write division with the fraction bar. This is 5.52 divided by 1.6. All right, so I can look, and if I want to make this a whole number, I know that this divisor here, I can take it times 10 to make it 16. Okay, so if I take this times 10, we know to keep it equivalent, I need to take the top times 10. And remember, anything times 1 is itself, so it keeps the same value. So if I move this decimal once to make it 10 times bigger, have to move this decimal once to make it 10 times bigger. And now I'm dividing into groups of 16, and that makes a little bit more sense. All right, so I do the same thing right here. I always look at this divisor. I want to make it a whole number, so I can divide into groups of 16. So I make that 10 times bigger, so I must all make this 10 times bigger, and then that's where the decimal goes. We know it goes right up in there. So really, I changed it to 55.2 divided by 16. That's got the same relationship as 5.52 divided by 1.6. All right, so now I can just divide normally and pretend the decimals aren't even there. Okay, using that does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers process that we've learned. If I have 5, can I get a group of 16? Nope, so some people exit out, or you can just move over. What if I have 55? Can I get a group of 16? And I know in this case I can. I know 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 3 is 48. So I'm going to take 16 times 3, and that is 48. So I did my multiply step. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to get 7 back, and I'm going to check. That's less than 16, so I made a good guess. I'm going to bring down my 2. And now I'm going to redivide again. Remember, I start back over again and divide. So how many groups of 16 can I get out of 72? All right, I know 16 times 5 is 80, so probably going to have to go 4 here. So 16 times 4, again, I can do it from here to here by taking 4 times 6 and carrying if I need to, but some of you like to go off to the side, so I'll just do it that way. 16 times 4, and you get 64. 16 4 times is 64. Plug it in, that's going to work perfect. If I subtract, I'm going to get 8. And again, not done yet. We need to know that if it's the decimal, we can add zeros forever after it. I'm going to erase this right here. So I can add a 0 and then bring it down and continue, because that doesn't change any value. 5.52 is the same as 5.520, but it allows me to continue the process. And how many times does 16 go into 80? I know that's 5, because 16 times 5 is 80. Okay, so I get an answer of 3.45, or 3 45 hundredths. And I know that that's close to 3, so as long as I did my math correct over here, my answer makes sense. And so again, the big takeaway here is, well, you got to make this a whole number. And whatever you do to this, you got to do to that to keep it equivalent. And that's where the decimal goes. Okay, and then your answer will make sense. So that's the traditional way to divide with decimals. Okay, if there's no decimal over here, we don't have to move anything. We can just move this decimal straight up too if that situation occurs. Okay, all right, so again, I'll pause that video, or you could pause it back and make sure you have that written. And we'll take a look at the other problems here. I should be able to estimate too to make sure some things make sense here. If I just give you a bunch of numbers, I've they've already done the work for us and have the math here. We just need to make sure we know where the decimal goes. All right, so in this one, if I'm doing some estimating, I'm thinking, well, this is around 2,000. And let's say 0.56, that's about a half. So I think this one we can just say it backwards. How many halves make 2,000? You know, my answer has to double, so it should be around 4,000. So I know my decimal has to go right here, because that makes it 4,145. And I can do that simply by just saying it backwards, because I know I need double the amount of groups, because this is half as small as 1. So how many halves make 2,000? About 4,000. I know my answer makes sense right there. Okay, so again, some of these can be pretty quick if you can use your estimating skills and say it backwards. Okay, and do some rounding and estimating. Again, make sure you get this written down. We'll take a look at this last one. Again, I'll pause the video if we need to. And then number 3, little real life problem here. Amon paid $47.32 to fill his car's gas tank with gas. The gas tank was empty, and the cost of gasoline was $3.64 per gallon. How many gallons does this tank hold? So I'm looking for how many gallons of gas. And I know that it costs $3.64 per gallon. So every group of $3.64 is 1 gallon. So that's my divisor. So my number model should be, I'm starting with $47.32, and I'm dividing into groups $3.64, because that'll tell me every gallon. And that's what I'm trying to find. So this is $47.32 divided by $3.64. It'll tell me how many gallons of gas he put in there. I'm going to go off to the side here. I'll rewrite it so you can see it. I see that's right in the light. $47.32 divided by $3.64. And again, what we learned traditionally, we need to make this a whole number. So I can make it 10 100 times bigger by moving it twice. So I need to make this 10 100 times bigger to keep it equivalent. And that decimal, then we can pretend they're not even there. So now I'm making groups of 364. So if I have 4, I can't get a group of 364. If I have 47, I can't. But if I have 473, again, staying lined up here, I know I can get 1 group, because 2 would be over 600, so that wouldn't make sense. So 1 group of 364, that's easy multiplying. That's just 364. So let's subtract and see what I have left. I get 109 left, which seems like a lot, but remember, it just needs to be less than that, which it is. So I couldn't have got another group of 364. So I bring down my 2, and I start over again. If I have 1,092 divided into groups of 364, if I'm just thinking 300 3 times is 900. So I know it's probably going to be 3 or 4. 4 might be a little bit too big because I have 364, not 300. So I'm going to try 3 off the bat. And sometimes before I even write that up there, I'll just go off to the side and take 364 times 3. Times 3 is 12, 18, 19. And in this case, it comes out exactly. So 364 3 times is 1,092. So when I subtract, I get nothing. And I know that my answer is they bought 13 gallons of gas to fill that car. All right, so there's a real life problem dealing with some gas and how to use division of decimals in this case. So make sure you get this stuff written down.